things. We will meet out your fate momentarily. He dips his head a little when he says that.
Dude, what the heck are we gonna do with an elf?
I mean,
Well,
Obviously,
as
we
we
won't
do
leave her
to anyone
here.
else. Yeah.
I'm
you
just
could
saying, do we
hire
have-
her.
I get that, but what, like, I guess we probably need to do an interview first to figure out what she's good at. But it's like, do elves have any
Quite an-
particular abilities? Like, I don't know.
Quite an
Well, they
awkward
age
interview.
very slowly.
But
I like how everyone talked all at the same time.
I see that Mel is panicking. I know you don't want to do the. Sorry.
All I'm asking is, do we have enough room in the payroll for an elf?
It's the.
we barely have enough
course.
payroll for everyone here. But
That
we're
is-
figuring it out.
That
as
is
we go.
not working in your defense, Mel.
I understand
Well.
if Mel is not on board because she doesn't want to do your stupid paperwork that does not have any weight to it.
That's a good
Well,
point.
Cog.
That's a good point. Cog turns around and looks at the elf and goes, "Are you good with paperwork?"
I can do the paperwork still.
That's a lot of paperwork. Look, I'm trying to help you find a purpose here.
Well, Cog, the more hands in a
I could use
company.
an assistant.
Oh, go ahead.
I could use at least
that-
an HR assistant since I have to focus on R&D
Cool.
a little bit more.
Totally fair. Cog turns around, it puts his
The
fingers.
more hands we have, the more we can do.
Yeah.
If you want to go that route.
Cog turns around, puts his fingers together. It's like, what kind of skills do you got?
Taya, she tries to approach the group, gets stopped by
Rahadin
the
holds her back.
chairman. I am a wizard of the conjuration school. I can be of some use.
Conjuration.
That summoning, you know.
Yes, I know what conjuration means, Azrael. I'm just trying to figure out what the heck I'm supposed to do with that. Yeah, fine. You're
Summon
hired.
Summoning
stuff.
magic is pretty useful.
Okay, all right, fine. You're hired. Mel, write her up a contract.
Seriously, Cog, right now?
Mel opens Cog's chest and reaches in for her paper
Hey,
and
hey,
pen.
hey.
Mel, you're not supposed to take him seriously.
Boundaries.
Strahd seems really amused by
You're
this,
the
and
one
he
that
says,
keeps the resources.
Strahd seems really amused by this, and he says, presumptuous of you to hire a criminal.
It's not a criminal.
Trespassing's a minor demeanor. Call it charity.
It's not even trespassing. She didn't
Well,
even intend
it
to
sounded
do
like
it.
the miss brought her here.
Yeah, if anyone's at
I
fault, it's
don't
the
think
miss.
any true crime was committed. Unless...
Mel turns curtly to Strahd for a moment. Is there a table up here somewhere? She's
Gosh.
looking around. I need somewhere flat to write.
God, I'm so glad I don't have to write these as much anymore.
I'm sure you will have the opportunity later.
Just use Hector's back. It'll work.
Not now, Mel.
Why my back?
I
I
mean,
can
guess-
use my
The
shield.
flattest of everyone.
that's a good
Well,
point.
Mel
everyone-
uses Hector.
That's a good point.
Well,
Hector has seniority. We'll use the new chick's back.
Strahd
Um,
says, while I think your legal argument is persuasive, I'm less interested in the legality of it. I think you want a favor, do you not? Why don't you ask it?
Are you referring to the elf or is the clockwork guy here? Which one is knowing me either way?
If you intend to hire her, I imagine that you want her from me. You will have to ask, and you will have to know that you are in my debt if I do release her to your company.
Company huddle. What the heck does that mean? Debt? It's fine. No,
That
we're
we
good.
have to do him a
Well,
favor,
we should ask
you know.
what kind of debt.
Well, it's pretty obvious what he implies by a debt. He means a company favor, which means we're probably going to have to kill somebody, which could be detrimental to us depending on who he wants killed.
Yes, indeed, Cog.
I do.
Well, we should ask for more specifics, is what I'm saying.
I
Good
feel
point.
like leaving her to die isn't an option.
Good point. Cog turns back around and is like, "What kind of favor?"
Mel is reaching into Cog. Mel is reaching into Cog and pulling out a contract.
You know, you could ask.
I keep everything on you, okay?
I'm not
Strahd
a freaking
says-
filing cabinet.
You might as well be.
All right. Talk about that later.
Strahd says, I am not so liturgical as you. For me, it is a matter of honor to give a gift to those who are my vassals. And so, I would expect you to understand that my generosity has limits, and that from the point that I release her to your recognizance, you will have to... I'm trying to think of how to phrase this.
Cog says, "Okay, who do you want killed?"
You will need to understand.
No.
You will need to understand that while you are under my protection, you must respond to my word, and you must do as I say. And if we should meet beyond these walls, and you are misbehaving, I will make things very, very hard for you, and perhaps take lives for the life that I have given you tonight.
Ezreal kind of steps up and says, I would like to propose another way. It's only the elf slave being saved here. In truth, at least I, couldn't care less. It's her that will own you, not us.
In that case, may I propose a new game?
Only if you get to play as well.
We have a second criminal here. If you want the elf maid, I will give her to you, free of any kind of strings. But you will advise me on what will be done with the other one. Rahadin. He nods his head to Rahadin, and he then rips away the sack that's covering the figure's head, revealing its features. He is a man. His eyes are wide and terrified. His body, however, has been warped beyond recognition. His muscles grotesquely swollen, his skin cracked and fissured like parched earth. Most unsettling of all are the 4 lumps that adorn his shoulders, each resembling a tiny misshapen head with its eyes squeezed shut. Strahd then turns to you with an interested look in his eyes, and he says, "This man is a convicted murderer. Explain, Rahadin." Rahadin picks up by saying, "He was a Valachian. He murdered his neighbor after he caught his wife and the neighbor having an affair." Strahd clicks his tongue a little and says, "I'm told he tore a wooden beam from the victim's own home and used it to crush him to death." He shakes his head. "A savage brute. For his crimes I have already sentenced him to death. If you want this elf maid, you will have to show me a lord's justice, very much like the hypothetical lords that we spoke earlier of you being. That justice is unlike the justice of a battlefield. And it has come time for you to decide now if this creature, or how this creature will pass from this world. What do you think?"
Does it seem in pain?
He looks terrified, but you can't... Well, make an insight check.
Okay, I'll make one too.
Oh,
Yeah,
nice
make
job,
one.
Azriel. So insightful.
Neither of you
are.
can see any pain in him.
Hold on.
Do
Insight?
can I recognize the condition going on with him with a medicine check?
You can try.
Oh, wow.
Something
Is that
about
better?
the way that his body is deformed is reminiscent of the way that Azriel's been changed, and the way that you saw Isaac was changed.
Oh,
Quick question. For the chat log, do the newer chats appear on the bottom or the top?
New stuff's at the bottom.
All right.
Melano, you don't see pain in his eyes, but he looks a little bit wild and frantic.
Cog's gonna roll perception to see if the story is true.
That's my insight.
That's insane.
Oh, is that
Yeah.
insight? Never mind. Insight.
Insight is reading into people's perception of seeing things.
You'd think I'd have like some. I have. Well, I guess I have average wisdom. Where is that?
I think Hector will turn to the man.
Oh, wow.
Not 20.
Oh, that was a nat 20. What the heck?
You didn't detect any deception leakage.
I think Hector will turn to the man and ask him, well, is this story true? Did you murder your neighbor?
He
And- I'll probably do an insight as well once he's finished.
he looks at you wildly, and for a moment there's this crazed look on his face, and he begins to pull forward, but Rahidin holds him back, and then he says, I smell amber.
I guess Azrael's eyes would
Nice.
kind of widen up. Kind of realizes what that means.
Okay, what does amber
I
smell
guess
like?
Hector will
friend?
change his question to, did you make a deal with something you shouldn't have?
He darts his eyes back to you, and then he looks around like there's something else there that you can't see, and he says, the whispers. I hear them. Do they whisper to you as well? And he turns and he looks at Azrael when he says that.
Azrael kind of gets a worried look.
Strahd taps his foot and he says, the man has been sentenced to death. All that is necessary is for that sentence to be carried out. Decide. How will he die?
Death via
Um,
labor?
Azrael would quickly look at Irina and whisper, how do you feel about this?
I feel that he must be in some way cursed. What else could make him changed like this? I hate to say it, but perhaps ending his existence would be a kindness.
Cog.
Well,
Azrael
we have a
would say-
guillotine of sorts.
Azrael kind of waves that away at the end. He says, I will volunteer to execute him.
Azrael, you do not disappoint me. How should he be executed then?
Can I make a suggestion? Death by dissection, considering he's got something going on, and it'd probably be beneficial to figure out what the heck all this is. I knew organics were disgusting, but this one's kind of...
Azrael rolls his eyes. I'll just do it the simple manner. Cut off his head.
He's got
Like any
4 of them.
executioner.
I
If
will
you want me to
require
do
that
an
you be in
autopsy,
agreement.
if you want me to do an autopsy, I could do that.
Said something, sorry.
I require that you be in agreement.
Okay, then Azrael will...
You want to cut off his head and then have me do an autopsy.
Cog chips in. Want to do it at the same time? Makes it easier. Less chance of get the job done quickly. He's kind of beefy.
Strahd shakes his head. This is an execution, not an examination. Whatever you do must kill him. That is all.
I guess Azrael looking at it and having experience with the supernatural, could he determine that with a single swing he can execute it swiftly?
He does not look like he would withstand an attack from you. You probably could just cut his head right off.
Okay, then Azrael will volunteer to do so.
Just execute him then.
So you
Okay.
cut his head off?
Azrael would do it kind of fashionably. He would,
Fashionably.
like, not fashionably, but like stand in the middle of his room. Azrael would cut his arm, demon arm open, and the blade would spark in a radiant light.
Strahd says, "Ah, yes, that's just how we used to do it in old Zerodia."
See, we have class.
Very fashionable.
Yeah, very fashionable. And I wanted to say something, but I lost my thought. So I guess he would just look at it. I look at it pitifully,
I
and
think just as you go to cut his head off, he looks at you right in the eyes and he says, "You think yourself above me, but you carry the stink as well."
I do, and I don't think above you. I realize my time might be soon.
Hey, can we hurry this up? We're on a bit of a deadline.
I think right then you cut his head off.
Yeah.
It goes rolling across the floor, and then Strahd says, "Very good. Not all would have the constitution to mete out justice as you have now. I approve."
It's not justice. It's pity. That's the one thing I will be honest with you, Strahd, and one thing only.
Just so. He then turns to Rahadin and he says, "Rahadin, be sure that that is cleaned up, and release the elf maid into their custody. She will be under guest right as well, for as long as our guests remain in Ravenloft." Rahadin uncollars her and takes her manacles off,
Wait.
and then he gently pushes her toward the rest of the group.
Cog steps forward and says, "Hi, Crackett Cog, don't touch me. We'll get you through orientation. Mel's got all your paperwork. Just sign everything under the dotted line. Your payment starts next week. Welcome to the town video, yada, yada, yada. Let's go see the Tin Man."
All right. She says nervously.
I'm actually currently filling out her paperwork right now.
Mel,
Unless you dismiss that one until
Snow, let me know if I need to fill some out too. I'm willing to write out contracts as well. Just
uh,
Well, right now,
So-
first, I'm currently writing out a contract to fill out for Strahd right now for dealing with this execution.
Oh, good. See, that's fantastic. We need to make
Must-
sure he charge him like 10 gold. Charge him like 5 gold
Well-
for execution services.
Cog,
I
I
should have
believe.
thought of that.
Like, I believe
no,
he
I'm not-
his price was
for that.
this woman here.
It's for the woman's life.
Oh, that's right. I forgot that part.
oh, Cog.
We can't
Oh,
double
I
charge clients, as you would say it.
Strahd says, "Well, I believe that this evening is coming to a close. I must thank you very much for this, for both the enjoyable nature of the evening and the pleasure of your company."
What's today's
And-
date? In world. Sorry, not our world.
I don't think they're sure. I tried asking that a while
I
ago.
think it's Nayaver the what was it? I think Iggy has been tracking that better than me.
Yep,
It's
let
Nayaver
me-
something.
Let me check my Google Docs.
Just after Strahd says that, a bolt of lightning strikes outside. A flash of blinding white fills the air above the courtyard, and an explosion of sound rattles the broken glass and iron latticework of the chamber's large window. As the acrid scent of ozone fills the room, you see a cloud of thick, black smoke rising from one of the towers beside the raised drawbridge.
I think Hector's going to communicate with Einar and ask his horse if everything's going all right outside.
Einar, again, I can't remember. Does he verbally communicate? He does, right?
I think so, verbally or
Like in a
telepathically.
simplistic way. I think I think what he tells you is that he's actually been taken to a stable. He saw the flash, but that's all.
Okay. Oh, she did.
I think last
She,
session
yeah,
we
yeah.
agreed that she can.
I don't know exactly. It
You
does
went-
say
You went with
Telepath.
like feeling, and you went with like
Yeah.
feelings more than words per se.
Emotions.
I think you would get like a sense that she's been taken to a safe place.
it just
Although you
says
would also-
telepathically, and then its intelligence goes to 6.
Yeah. Well, one way or another, you determine that she's been taken to a stable and saw a flash. Or
Bro, you
something
could have
that
picked a
startled her.
mastiff, dude.
The Mastiffs is more for like if you're a paladin that's a small size,
Uh,
you can ride the dog.
but dog.
Also, Mel, it's the 14th right now.
I thought it was the 15th. Okay.
No, it's
14th.
the 14th.
Ludmila enters the chamber through the two double doors, and she has a stony expression on her face. She bows very deeply, and then to Strahd she says, "It appears that a bolt of lightning has struck the south gate tower, my lord. I have dispatched Diavola to inspect the tower mechanism and determine whether any repairs may be required." Strahd he rubs his chin a little bit and he says, "It would be best if we waited for this response. Ludmila, I will expect it promptly. As for our guests, I think we should wait in the entry. I will have refreshments brought while we wait."
Very well.
He goes with you after saying that down to the great entry, which was this room here. Yeah. And once you arrive there, he clicks as you're walking there, he clicks his tongue a couple of times, and a bat actually flies down onto his shoulder. He whispers to the bat, and then the bat flies off. He then leads you to the great entry.
Did we hear anything of the whisper?
You can make a perception check.
All right.
Because he's undead, would I get an advantage? Just
Yeah,
fishing for
sure,
them.
why not?
Okay.
That's a
Doesn't
24.
really make sense, but why not? You
You're
overheard
undead. I
him
can
ask.
hear you better.
You overheard him asking for spiced wine and tea to be brought to the main entry.
Okay, nothing that crazy.
Once you arrive in the main entry, you actually see Sasha waiting there with a tray. She goes to each of you, lowers her head, and offers you the spiced wine or the tea, which she has on it.
I think Hector will take the tea.
She looks at you for a long moment, like she's trying to figure you out before she moves on.
Azrael's next to Irina. Azrael would ask, are you feeling for anything?
You're asking Irina what she's feeling?
Yeah.
I don't like this. I'm afraid that we may not be able to leave if this mechanism does not work. I don't want to stay here.
Understandable.
I think when Sasha was looking at Hector, he would have eventually kind of just trailed his own eyes down to his healer's kit, and that's about all he's going to do as a response.
Interesting.
When Sasha gets to Cog prints out a small card, like one of their business cards, and on the back, I'm trying to think how to do this. Cog basically says, if you're ever in need of our services, we do allow one freebie for local governments.
I doubt it will be necessary, but if you bring me information about this von Richten character.
That was for Sasha when she came by. She handed Sasha the card.
Oh, interesting.
Yeah.
Family.
Call it the
Sasha.
family and friend discount.
Sasha pushes it away and she says, "I have no interest for your help. I will not need you."
Offer was made. Same for you, lovely ladies.
None of the others are there.
Oh, okay.
It's just Sasha. She looked nervous when you did that. Strahd says, "If any of you should need the use of the table in the dining room, you may have it. I apologize for this delay and inconvenience, but I will have you know I have full faith in Ludmila and her associates to remedy any problem that may have arisen."
Melino has quickly reached into Cog and grabbed another sheet of paper, and she has bowed politely to Strahd before leaving for the table.
Wow, okay.
Consent.
That insight check was to see, was she more nervous about Sasha? Was she more nervous about Cog giving her that, or how Strahd would react if she accepted that?
You noticed her trying to avoid looking in Strahd's direction. She locked her eyes on Cog, and she turned her body in such a way as to she took a few steps to put her back towards Strahd. It did seem like she was trying to hide herself from him.
Okay.
A woman comes through the front doors at the great entry. She's wearing robes and a sort of a pointed hat. She looks really unhappy. She's soaking wet. And Ludmila, who is still in the room with you here, turns to her and says, "Well, deliver your report to the master." She casts her eyes toward the ground, and she bows quickly towards Strahd, and she begins stammering, "Forgive me, Great One. The lightning has scorched the runes inscribed into the upper tower. The bridge, it will not work until the runes are freshly cast." Strahd becomes cold, and he says, "Are you able to recast the tower runes?" She nods very quickly, and she wrings her hands and licks her lips and says, "Yes, I would require the aid of the full coven, but it can be done, and the only problem is that it could take us until morning." Strahd sighs. Yeah?
Takes her head in and says, "Give me about an hour to finish this paperwork, and I could help."
Cog.
No, I think
Cog
it's fine.
Cog reaches a hand over and like a shh. No, let's not. Let's not interfere in technical stuff. I'm sure that these lovely individuals would hate for outside contractors to do their work for them. Am I right?
We're guests after all.
Slumber
Ludmila
party.
says, "Indeed, and my people are the best when it comes to this technology. They understand the castle like no other. If Diavola says that it will take until morning, it will take until morning." Strahd puts his hand out to silence her, and he says, "See that it is done." He addresses the woman, Diavola, and he says, "You are dismissed." She bows very quickly, and she flees out of the room down the South Tower stairs. Or up the South Tower stairs, rather.
So,
Snell's
slumber
gonna
party.
keep an eye on that.
Strahd nods his head, and he says, "I must again apologize for this inconvenience. It does appear unlikely that you will be able to leave tonight. But I can have the carriage take you in the morning once the bridge is fixed. And should you wish it, I would be more than glad to have rooms prepared for you. Our guest quarters are warm and comfortable and in far better condition than many other chambers of the castle."
Do you mind if we all cram into one?
In fact, I think this would be the best way to to be sure that all of you will be safe. I wouldn't want the chance that one of you would go wandering.
Perfectly fine. Azrael has abandonment issues. It just wouldn't work very well if we were separated. So it works out just fine.
Strahd nods his head, and he says, and he claps his hands together, and he says, "Sasha, you will show our guests to their room, please." She bows, and she says, "Yes, my lord." And she beckons for you to follow her. He says, "I bid you good night."
May I finish what I'm doing here first?
Yeah.
Sasha approaches you, and she says, "There will be a desk for you to use in the room that I am taking you to. Please, we should go."
I I have paperwork for you to sign tomorrow, before we leave.
I don't know the nature of this, but we can speak of it later.
Simple
There will be
contract.
time.
I'm imagining Mel is writing the papers on the ground.
She turns back as she begins to lead you, and she says, "Do not stray from my path, unless you wish to die a most painful death."
Well, you heard the fine lady.
She leads you up the South Tower stair, past a second floor landing, and past a third floor landing, and then onto a fourth floor where she stops and takes the landing, bringing you to this room, which I'll show you in a second. Wrong room. That's actually the basement you explored. It's actually, yeah, that's where Hector was earlier.
Oh, that's
It's
the
actually
wine
up
cellar.
here. She brings you up this stairway, which I'll reveal in a moment. And you see a stairway on the other side, which you'll also see in a moment. And she brings you into this room. One sec, I'll tell you what it looks like. You come to a dark landing 10 feet wide and 20 feet long. A cold draft of wind rushes down the spiral staircase at the north end of the east wall and whistles mournfully through the room before streaming down the stairs to the south. An ornate square rug covers the floor to the south. Set into the west wall is an iron-bound wooden door with a wooden trapdoor set into the floor in front of it. Hanging on the north wall above the trapdoor is a framed portrait of a handsome, well-dressed man with a serene yet penetrating gaze. You recognize this man to actually be Strad von Zarevich, but he's much pinker in the